Hello, you're watching The Final Whistle with me, Kenzie, Benali.
And me, Steve Forbes.
Well, it finishes 2-1 here at St Mary's Stadium after a Zaha 92nd minute winner. You can probably still hear the last of the Crystal Palace fans leaving the stadium behind us. A very disappointing end to the match. Let's bring in our two guests, Dean Hammond and Joe Prince-Wright, now to discuss that one. Joe, we'll come to you first. Heartbreak at the end there.
It was, Kenzie. I thought, a draw was maybe a fair result. Maybe Crystal Palace did probably edge it over the course of the 90 minutes, but it was just a bit of individual brilliance from Zaha to turn Jan Bednarak and then smash it in off the post down low. It was a great strike, but there really wasn't too much in that game overall. I think Saints scoring early in a weird way. Once again, it kind of just knocked them out of their stride a little bit. I think Palace created a lot of good chances. It looked like it was going to be another off day in front of goal for them, but getting that goal, the equaliser in the 60th minute was key, I think, for Palace, just to give them belief. And then, their bench was pretty stacked with Elise and Zaha to come on and just add that extra bit of quality and attack that they were missing. So, bit of a sickener there for Southampton, and just hoping the final weeks of the season they can pick up a few more points and push a bit further. But that was just a bit hard to take, I think, today, that result, and just the way it happened at the end. But Zaha's a quality player, and he can do that. He has that in his locker.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we will speak about that in more depth in just a moment's time. But obviously, Crystal Palace now move ahead of us in the table. They've got a game in hand as well. Dean, what did you make of today's performance?
Yeah, just repeat what Joe says, really. It was a frustrating afternoon. There wasn't much in the game, I didn't think. The early goal for Southampton, I thought that would spur the team on, breed some added confidence within the group, and it kind of not deflated Southampton, but they probably had the better of the first half in terms of possession, but Crystal Palace probably had better chances. I thought both teams were kind of good up to the final third, and then the end quality kind of let them both down. Both teams, I think, lacked that little bit of spark and creativity today to really open up either defence, and just frustration to lose the game like they did in the 90th minute. Brilliant way for Crystal Palace to win the game. We mentioned before the show, Wilfried Zaha has that ability. He is a special player when he wants to be, and it's a great first touch to hold Bednarak, a good turn and a good strike, and worthy of winning a game. But just disappointment for Southampton. We'll go into more detail, but I think it could have been prevented. Both goals, I think, it's just a couple of individual errors, that small detail at the highest level, which can cost you, really. But Southampton were good to a point, but just didn't really create anything today. But I agree with Joe. I think a point would have been a fair result. So I'm sure that dressing room will be a little bit low today, but just frustration because there was probably an opportunity there for Southampton to win the game after such a really good start.
Now, Joe, we spoke lots before the game about Oriol Romeu's role in both of last weekend's goals against Brighton, and then he pops up today with a goal, and it was a not bad header.
Really good header, and he's had a few opportunities recently. I think Burnley had a couple of headers from corners, very close range, but just missed out on those. But really good finish. I think maybe no disrespect to him, but maybe other teams aren't really marking him as closely as they should from set piece situations because he hasn't been as prolific over the years with scoring goals. But great ball in from Prowsey. Obviously, his set pieces continue to boggle the mind of how precise he is, not just scoring free kicks, but his delivery from corners. And Saints are right up there with their percentage of goals from set pieces over their total goals this season. So that is so important so far this campaign. And Romeu, just a really good header, wasn't it? They gave him a half a yard and in off the bar. And as Dean mentioned, it looked like being a perfect start, and that would give Saints more confidence. But the goal almost seemed to have a bit of the opposite impact. It was almost like Saints took their foot off the gas a little bit and then just sparked Crystal Palace into life. But great finish from Romeu, and he was obviously delighted with it.
Yeah, of course. I mean, Dean, what did you make of his overall contribution and performance today?
Yeah, I thought he was solid. Oriol, I think he had a decent performance. The way he retains the ball is always impressive. He does the basics very, very well. It's a fantastic goal for him. The way he adjusts his feet to win the header, the power he gets on the header is very, very good. And like Joe mentioned, he does get into good positions at times in games. Joe mentioned it, the two headers at Burnley, and they came from a set piece and a late run into the box. So he has that ability to score goals. But yeah, look, Oriol Romeu is a really important part of this team. He reads the game so well. One of the best midfield players, in my opinion, in the Premier League for what he does as a holding midfielder. And like I said, I thought Southampton, up to the final third, were pretty good today. And he played a major part in that in terms of making the ball tick over, keep possession, bring the better players into the game. I thought there was going to be a moment in the second half when Nathan Redmond and I think it was Stuart Armstrong combined, and then it came to Romeu on the edge of the box. He laid Prowse in. Prowse just kind of pulled the shot. I thought it was going to be a repeat of last week. So Oriol is one of the better performers today, I think. But yeah, it's just that frustration really, because I think there was an opportunity there for Southampton. I really do today to kind of finish the season strong after a really good second half performance last week. But Oriol Romeu and James Ward-Prowse, I mentioned it before the show, if they play well, Southampton seem to play well. So they're so important to this team.
Eze grabbed the equaliser for Palace in the second half, Joe, assisted by former St Nathaniel Klein too. Do you feel that Palace deserved to get back into the game at that point?
Steve, at that point, it felt like Saints just maybe weathered the storm early in the second half and late in the first half, and Palace had quite a few chances. So it kind of came out of nothing, wasn't it? It was the ball that was up to Shea Adams. I think he could have done a bit better to hold the ball up, but kind of just lost possession. And then Palace worked it out, Gallagher out to the right. And then it was a really good cross. It looked like the ball had been overplayed to him. Just dug it out and put it in a good area towards the back stick. And then, yeah, Eze, he's obviously been out injured for a long time, just getting back to his best. Struck it low, put it on target. And I think Fraser Forster, when he looks back at it, probably be a bit disappointed that he didn't keep that one out. Wasn't a venomous hit from Eze by any stretch of the imagination. He just got it on target, but he just squeezed under Fraser. And yeah, I think Saints fans generally couldn't have had any complaints that it was level at that point, because Palace had been building some pressure before half-time and then at the start of the second half. But I just feel like if Saints could have seen out that 5 minutes around the 60-minute mark, and then the players were coming off the bench, it would have made a huge difference, and they probably could have held on and saw out the victory. So, yeah, that goal, Steve, came at a crucial time for Crystal Palace.
Well, Dean, let's talk about the late heartbreak, shall we? Because as we mentioned at the top of the show, it was, of course, Zaha that netted from the edge of the box to make it 2-1. Just how disappointing is it to lose that late on?
Yeah, I think when you get to that stage, Kenzie, I think as a player, you tend to understand that maybe a point is a good result at that moment when it gets to the 90th minute. You kind of get a feeling for a game when you're in it. You're always trying to be positive and always trying to win the game. But sometimes when you realise when you're in the game, the performance is not quite there. You haven't really created anything. You don't really look like scoring. It's taking that responsibility. Maybe the senior players to think, look, let's not lose the game. Let's kind of keep our shape. Let's remain solid and see the game out, take the point and move on. And that's what I mean about the small detail. If you look at it, Southampton probably for the majority of the game kind of played on the counter-attack, and the shape defensively was pretty good. There wasn't many gaps for Crystal Palace to play through. But when it went 1-1, Southampton kind of opened up a little bit. Stuart Armstrong came on, Brozier came on, and they had more of an effect in terms of Southampton creating opportunities and half chances. So an attacking point was good, but the game became a little bit stretched. And right towards the end, Brozier kind of tried to go to Hughes, loses the tackle, and the two centre midfielders are split. And one, I think it's James Ward-Prowse maybe comes across the close of ball, and Oriol Romeu kind of needs to come across a little bit more. It's the 90th minute, the legs are tired. I can understand it. But in that moment, just force the ball wide. Don't let it go into the strikers and give them an opportunity to hold the ball into feet and, like Zaha did, turn and get a shot away. So it's the small detail. But I think just in that moment, building up the 5 minutes before that, just keep your shape, understand the situation of the game collectively, and just say, right, let's see this out and take the point. But that will come with this team. They're a young team, and it will definitely come. And all these moments and experiences they're having, it's good learning for them. So it's whether you learn from them. That's the next step.
Now, Shane Long started up front for Southampton today, and he proved to be a real thorn in the side of the Palace defence. He was a nuisance. He drew fouls, he forced errors, he dispossessed them. What did you make of his performance today, Joe?
Really good. Just the typical Shane Long performance. I think we've all seen him give that performance pretty much every time he stepped on the pitch. He never stops running, always makes it difficult for defenders. And he set the tone early on, even before the goal. Saints were well on top. He was pressing from the front. The other attacking midfielders, Teller and Redmond, were following, buzzing around, picking up on the scraps that Palace were leaving because Shane Long was causing so many issues. So you can understand why he's been starting in recent weeks, because he's having a real impact. And it's just, I think in the full 90 minutes of a game, I think with Shane Long and Teller and Redmond, you just wanted those guys to be on the ball more and Saints to get them the ball more. And that just wasn't happening the longer the game went on. So you felt a bit sorry for Shane Long in particular, and Shea Adams a little bit. They were just a little bit isolated, I felt. But when the ball was around him, he was running down the channels, chasing lost causes. It was a bit unlucky. He got clipped, I think, in the first half by Joe Ward, and didn't even get a free kick for that. But he took a lot of knocks today, Shane Long, in the typical workmanlike display. And I just wish that the ball would have fell to him and those other attacking players a bit more, because there was a lot of selfless running. They just went through a lot of hard yards today for not really a lot of return.
Dean, let's talk Roman Perro. He was the only change in the starting 11 today. How did he perform for you?
Fine, Kenzie. I think, Perro has that ability to be that attacking threat. He's very, very fit, but didn't really have the opportunities to show that today. Defensively, very, very good. Defensively sound. He made one really good recovery run and tackle against Elise late on in the second half, where Elise is looking to get it back onto his left foot. So he did fine. And I think for coming back into the team, Perro is one of those players you're always going to get a 7 out of 10 for him, and it's anything above. I think he never drops below that 7. He's very, very consistent. He's really, really reliable, and I'm sure that the manager values that in him, because that is a valuable trait to have as a player, that you're always going to give a 7 out of 10, and anything above it is a bonus. So he did fine today, but the frustration would be that he didn't have those opportunities to get in those attacking situations, because I think he's really improving on that, and his own belief in those situations are improving as well. So, but he did another player that did fine. Like most of the Southampton players today, they did fine. They did well enough. I think it just lacked that little bit of spark and maybe that little bit of belief to try and win the game today.
Well, as Brentford up next weekend, they're now in 14th as we slip down to 15th. Joe, what are your early thoughts ahead of that match?
Yeah, really even game, I think, Steve. If you just look at the table, obviously level on points. Brentford have got Man United to play on Monday. They're a very good team. They're in a very good moment as well, with Mbuemo, Tony and Eriksson in attack, just really linking up well. So the good thing is they don't draw a lot of games, Brentford, so they're kind of hit and miss when you look at them throughout the season. They'll go for it. They win a lot of games, especially at home. Been lucky enough to go to that stadium a few times this season. It's a great atmosphere. Really reminds me of the old Dell at times, how close you are to the pitch and just the great atmosphere they create. So I think for Saints, it's trying to control possession a bit more. That's what I was a bit disappointed with today. There was no real control. It was similar to the Arsenal game where they sat back and let Palace have a lot of the ball. I'd like to see them go away to Brentford and try and force the issue a little bit more and get on the front foot. But as I said, it's very hit and miss with Brentford, kind of like Southampton as well. A little bit inconsistent. It'll be tough. It'll be a really tough game. But as we saw when Saints played Brentford earlier in the season, they came up pretty well against them in that big win at St Mary's. So hopefully more of the same.
Well, Dean, you said we were lacking a bit of a spark today. How do we reignite that for when we take on Brentford?
Great question, Kenzie. I think if you look at the Brighton game second half, it's that high tempo press. I think Southampton, like I say, are always at their best when they're very good without the ball, when they're pressing teams, and they're really brave and they take the game to the opposition. So I think go back to that. That can be the start of it, and then that a little bit more movement when and options for the player on the ball. If he's got the ball, he not just has one option, he has 2 or 3 options. That could be an unselfish running behind from a striker. It could be a midfield player coming short to try and combine. A little bit of variation. But look, they were fine today. This was not a poor performance today. It just lacked that little bit of spark and a bit of brilliance from Zaha at the end, which, like we say, he can produce. But You know, Brentford have been terrific this season, really impressive in the Premier League. But like Joe said, when we played them at St Mary's, we beat them convincingly and showed that there was a bit of a golfing quality. So this Southampton team, young team, just keep believing in yourself, keep playing, and they will be fine. But it would be good for them, I think, with that momentum going into next season, to finish the season strong. And this is another opportunity to do that.
Good stuff. Well, Dean, Joe, thank you so much for joining us today on Saints Live and the final whistle. As we've said, late heartbreak for Southampton, losing 2-1 at home to Crystal Palace this afternoon. Next up is a trip to Brentford on Saturday the 7th of May. It's a 3 p.m. kickoff for that one, so we'll have another Saints Live for you from 1:45. Try and enjoy the rest of your week, Saints fans, and we'll see you then.
Bye for now.